We all know that voice,
Yeah.
right? So powerful, so distinct. But recently, Michael Bolton has shared something really personal, something, well, unexpected about his health.
Yeah, so today we're doing a deep dive into that, his glioblastoma diagnosis.
Exactly. We'll be drawing mostly from his big interview with People magazine, where he first opened up about it.
And we've got a bit of extra context from a related news report, too. The idea is really to give you a solid, insightful look at what he's going through.
Right. We want to unpack, his experience, what this condition actually is, and how it's impacting him, his life, his perspective. Okay, so let's get into it.
It all started with that People interview. That was the first time he really spoke out.
And what jumped out at me immediately was the timeline he laid out. It felt very fast.
It really did. He said he had emergency brain surgery, get this, on December 4th, 2023.
Wow. Okay.
And it was right after that surgery that he got the glioblastoma diagnosis.
Gosh, you just can't imagine hearing that news right after major surgery like that. Must have been, well, incredibly heavy.
Absolutely devastating, I'd imagine. And, his daughter Holly shared something really touching.
Oh, yeah.
She said he was actually singing in his hospital room pretty much right after he woke up from the surgery.
No way. Singing.
Yeah, which just speaks volumes about his spirit, his resilience, don't you think?
Totally. It really gives you a sense of who he is deep down. His daughters, Holly, Isa, and Taryn, they've obviously been a huge support focusing on those moments,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So that leads us to the big question. What exactly is glioblastoma?
Right. What are we talking about here?
Well, according to the Cleveland Clinic, it's actually the most common type of malignant brain tumor in adults. Cancerous.
Okay. Most common malignant type.
Yeah, but it's still considered rare overall. The big things about it are that it's unfortunately very aggressive and currently incurable.
Aggressive and incurable. That's tough.
It really is. Its aggressiveness comes from how quickly it can sort of invade the brain tissue around it. Makes it super hard to remove completely with surgery. That rapid growth is a key feature.
And just to clarify, it's a brain tumor, but it doesn't usually spread like elsewhere in the body. Stays in the brain area.
That's right, yeah. Typically it stays within the brain and the spinal cord. The Cleveland Clinic also points out that over 13,000 Americans get diagnosed each year.
13,000 a year. Okay.
And it tends to show up more often in older adults. And, well, the prognosis without treatment is pretty stark. It can lead to death in, less than 6 months.
Wow. That really paints a picture of how serious this is. So against that backdrop, Michael Bolton started his treatment journey.
He did. So after that first emergency surgery in December, and it's actually quite remarkable, the surgeons managed to get the whole visible tumor out.
Really? The whole thing?
Yeah. His neuro-oncologist mentioned that only happens in maybe 30 to 40% of glioblastoma cases. So that was, a positive step initially.
That's huge. But then there was more.
Yeah. Then he hit a setback. He needed a second brain surgery in January 2024, this time because of an infection.
Oh, man. Another surgery right after the first one, dealing with an infection on top of everything. That must have been incredibly difficult.
It just shows you, doesn't it? The complexity and the potential bumps in the road when treating something like this. After that, though, he completed radiation and chemotherapy. Finished that up last October.
Okay, so surgery, infection, more surgery, radiation, chemo, a lot.
A real marathon.
Yeah.
And now his care is focused on just really careful ongoing monitoring.
Which involves regular scans, right? MRIs every couple of months.
Exactly, every 2 months. And, the Glioblastoma Foundation states the recurrence rate is, well, it's high, around 90%.
90% recurrence, wow. So given that really high chance it comes back, what does long-term management usually look like? Is it just constant vigilance?
That statistic really underlines it, doesn't it? That treatment is often more about managing the disease, extending quality of life, rather than finding a complete cure at this point. It's an ongoing burden, physically and emotionally, for patients and families.
I can only imagine.
So yeah, long-term care means those regular scans, watching closely for any sign of it returning. And if it does recur, then doctors look at what further treatments might be possible. It's a continuous process.
So how's all this affected his, day-to-day life?
Well, he's been pretty open about the physical side of things. He mentioned it's affected his short-term memory, his speech sometimes, and his mobility too.
Those are major adjustments, things we often take for granted.
For sure. But what also really comes through, I think, is his mental strength, his attitude. He actually said succumbing to the challenge is not an option.
Wow. That's powerful.
Isn't it? And apparently he's kept his sense of humor through it all, which seems, well, pretty incredible under the circumstances.
It really is remarkable. It speaks to his character. He seems focused on finding comfort, appreciating the moments.
Yeah, exactly. And the support system seems huge for him. He talked quite a bit about his daughters and his 6 grandkids, Amelia, Olivia, Dylan, Grayson, River, and Jack. They have regular family trivia nights. That sounds like exactly what you'd need. That connection, that sense of normalcy must be just invaluable.
Absolutely. And he's made other changes too, adapting his routine. He's at home in Westport, Connecticut.
Right.
And he's incorporated things like meditating daily. He plays golf when he feels up to it. He's working with a personal trainer.
Staying active, engaged.
Yeah, and even continuing with a voice therapist or coach. It shows a real commitment to, fighting back on multiple fronts.
It really does. Beyond just the physical stuff, though, it's fascinating how this whole experience seems to be reshaping his perspective, his outlook on life.
Oh, completely. He talked about his definition of legacy changing, like profoundly.
How so?
He said, before, he probably would have pointed to his music career, his songs, as his legacy. It makes sense, right?
Of course. Decades of hits.
But now, he says his main focus, his legacy, is about the well-being of his daughters, making sure they're prepared for the future.
That's quite a shift. Yeah. It often happens, doesn't it, when people face something like this? The sort of external stuff, career achievements, they fade a bit in importance compared to family, to loved ones.
Yeah, it puts things in sharp focus, a real reminder of what's fundamental.
Definitely.
He also mentioned just being more aware of, mortality and how important it feels now to make the most of his time, living in the present.
And interestingly, he's made a conscious choice not to ask for a specific prognosis. He prefers to stay hopeful, focus on today. That takes a lot of courage, I think.
It really does. Choosing hope over potentially a difficult number.
Yeah.
And he also mentioned wanting to connect with others going through similar things.
Yeah, like saying you're not alone.
Exactly. Emphasizing that shared experience, it feels like maybe finding a new kind of purpose there and offering support and connection.
Could be. And you can really feel that fighting spirit. He even mentioned a possible title for a new song he's thinking about.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
Ain't Going Down Without a Fight. Huh. Perfect. That just sums it up, doesn't it? His whole attitude through this.
It really does. Okay, so wrapping things up a bit, what are the main takeaways here from Michael Bolton's story?
Well, I think we've got a clearer picture of his glioblastoma diagnosis, what that means.
Oh.
This rare but aggressive brain cancer. We followed his pretty intense treatment path. The surgeries, the infection, the chemo, the radiation.
And the constant monitoring now.
Right. And we've seen the real impact on his life, physically, emotionally, but also his incredible resilience and how vital his family's support has been.
Yeah, that really comes through.
And maybe the biggest thing is that shift in perspective. How he's redefining legacy, focusing on family, choosing hope. For me, that decision not to seek a prognosis and his desire to connect with others, that really stands out. It shows the power of hope, of connection when times are tough.
Yeah, for me too, that image of him singing right after brain surgery, that's just going to stick with me. Such a powerful picture of his spirit, Ultimately, his story, the way he's sharing it, it really touches on universal themes, doesn't it? Facing huge challenges, needing support, finding meaning when things get really hard.
Absolutely. Which kind of leaves us with a final thought, maybe for you listening.
Yeah.
How do these big, unexpected life events, like a serious diagnosis or maybe something else entirely, how do they make us rethink our own priorities? Our own definitions of success or a good life is definitely something worth reflecting on. What truly matters most to you?